altitude sickness happens whenever you have any sort of weakness that you've allowed to creep in, right? Like we've talked about this over and over amongst ourselves about when we've seen people get it or when we've gotten it ourselves. And it's always been when you have a little nick in your armor, so to speak, that the altitude sickness will come in and finish off whatever ailment is started. So if you're a little bit dehydrated, you're way more susceptible to get altitude sickness. If you have a little bit of a calorie deficit, you're more susceptible to get altitude sickness. If you're, not
getting proper rest.
Yeah, exactly. Not resting.
Not getting sleep, I mean, not just rest, sleep.
Exactly. Those are all things that will make you more susceptible. And so you have to be paying attention to that because, there's a lot of people and a lot of stories where people are up high in the mountains and start to have issues and have to come down, and when they come down, they're like, oh, well, it wasn't altitude sickness. It was, I ate something bad, or I didn't, I wasn't conditioned, or I had some other issue come on. And essentially, like with all the time we've spent up there and the different things that we've experienced, which we both have had our share of altitude sickness and experiences of being sick on the mountain, we have come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter how it starts, it's going to end as altitude sickness.
Yeah.
So
that's a great like I think of altitude sickness as this big black net that you either get caught in to begin with or you get caught in as you're falling. You know what I mean? Like, but either way, it ends in that. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, too, for all of you out there that are like, oh, we don't have 12,000-foot peaks to climb. Altitude sickness can start at 7,500 feet, 8,000 feet is when you actually start to become at risk of altitude. And many people out there, and maybe even less than that, depending on how sensitive you are, I've heard of situations, and I'll save them for future podcasts, maybe to ask the people themselves about this. But I mean, people at 8,000 feet that likely are starting to feel real effects of altitude sickness that can be really serious. But out on the AT, there's 6,000 foot peaks. Well, you can still feel something at 6,000 feet if you're used to 0 feet. But it just all adds up, because even if it's not altitude sickness, it's overexertion. If it's not overexertion, it's dehydration, and they all play a part. And so systematizing your day when you're going out on, say, a bucket list hike, you're trying to get through the miles that you're hoping to do in a timely manner. This has been and proven to be the best possible way to break up a day that's comfortable, reliable, consistent, and that you will learn to love, because you'll learn to love hiking at 7 a.m. or at 7 p.m. You'll learn that is the best time to be out walking around on trail versus sitting in camp, and especially if your camp's socked in by trees and you really can't see any views or any vantage points.